for us. Good night.
Good evening. This is the CBS Evening News. Dan Rather reporting. There has never been a day like today in the history of Wall Street. On two counts, there was record trading and a record plunge in stock prices. When it was over, analysts scrambled to find out why. CBS News business correspondent Ray Brady reports.
Just a week after the market reached an all-time high, the big sell-off hit so hard and so fast, Wall Streeters were stunned. The Dow Jones Industrial Average took the steepest plunge in its 102-year history, down more than 86 points to 1792.89 in the heaviest trading day ever.
Down, 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 down all day. It was trying to land in a bottomless pit.
The bull market was galloping upward almost steadily before today.
This party's almost over. The game is, the bull market will be coming to an end before too much longer, if it has not already ended.
Computerized stock programs set off some selling, but one big reason for the drop, the rising price of raw materials.
When prices of corn and oil and copper and all the things that we consume, cotton, go up, that means inflation is possibly on its way back.
That means interest rates rise too, bad for the economy and for stocks. So on the big board today, Philip Morris down 3 3/4 points. IBM down 4 7/8 points. American Home Products down 5.5 points. And they were just 3 of more than 1,600 stocks that lost money for investors today.
I saw a few people walking around with towels wrapped around their middle, so I would think they lost their pants as well as their shirts.
That's only a little exaggeration because Wall Streeters fear there are deep underlying problems in the economy. Dan?
What's Wall Street's biggest concern, Ray?
I think the biggest concern is the federal deficit in Washington, Dan, that Wall Streeters are saying they see very little really being done about it, and they say as the government keeps borrowing billions and billions of dollars, interest rates will start up again, and that's going to add to the inflation that they're worried about already and slow up the economy.
Thank you, Ray. CBS Incorporated stock fell by 5.5 points today. In part, that may have reflected the day's general decline in stock prices, but it also came in the wake of corporate changes at CBS Inc. yesterday. And there was a major change in the leadership of CBS News today. Correspondent Bruce Morton reports.
Ben Gordon-Sauter resigned today as president of CBS News. That was the latest of the changes, which began yesterday when CBS announced that Thomas Wyman had resigned as chairman and chief executive, that CBS founder William Paley would return temporarily as chairman, that principal stockholder Lawrence Tisch would again temporarily be chief executive. Analysts today noted that the networks generally face tougher economic challenges nowadays, competition from cable TV, for instance, but some also cited particular problems for CBS under Wyman.
It went from first place to second, and who knows if it doesn't drop to third place this year. They bought a toy company that they had to sell. Publishing division hasn't done very well. In short, things have gone very poorly under under Tom Wyman's leadership.
But it wasn't just economics. Critics in and out of the company had worried that at CBS News, standards were changing, old values eroding in a move towards more entertaining stuff. Today, the mood was upbeat.
I suspect that Tisch, with all his money and his apparent pride, would like to give CBS News back the independence that it has already had.
I think we will return to some traditional values, particularly in the news department.
The main job now is to bring the company back to the standards and heights that Mr. Paley set for this company.
Analysts say the economics of broadcasting may make that difficult, but the mood among employees here today was upbeat. Bruce Morton, CBS News, New York.
The leaders of Egypt and Israel began their summit conference in Alexandria today. Israeli Prime Minister Peres said he hopes it will end 4 years of cold peace, his phrase, between the two countries, and going back to the Israeli invasion of Lebanon. But there was still a chill in the air as the meeting began. CBS News correspondent Doug Tennell reports.
From the moment Shimon Peres arrived in Alexandria today for the first Egyptian-Israeli summit since Sadat, Egypt began sending little signals of how things have changed. Gone was the broad smile and warm handshake from an Egyptian president who called Menachem Begin a friend. For Peres, Egypt observed diplomatic protocol, a discreet way to temper any great expectations of historic breakthroughs.
Expect to reach a meeting of minds about how to proceed with the peace of momentum in the Middle East.
Are you willing to negotiate with the Jordanian-Palestinian team for peace?
President Mubarak?
Peres had to wait over 3 hours before meeting President Mubarak. The leaders of Egypt and Israel talked about the oldest, thorniest problem in the Middle East, the Palestinians. Afterwards, Mubarak acknowledged that he'd heard a few new ideas.
I think the Israeli position is improving a lot, and we have to work on so as to go much more closer and closer so as to reach comprehensive settlement. Peacefully.
They took one small step in that direction by signing an agreement last night to resolve a long-running border dispute over Taba in the Sinai. But it took them 4 years to settle that argument, which was only over 1 square mile of sand.
Let's face it, we are trying to make peace not only between leaders or governments, but between people. And the feelings of the people is of importance to the peace process.
What Peres wants is normal relations with Egypt, a real good neighbor. Mubarak wants a big break on the Palestinian issue first. But for all the talk of new ideas, the odds are he won't get it. Doug Tennell, CBS News, Alexandria.
Still to come on tonight's CBS Evening News, the war on drugs, commentary by Bill Moyers, and a look at a new dimension in violent teen gangs of the 1980s, gangs for girls only.
When you get a cold or an allergy,
you need some herbal tea.
You also get a lot of advice.
What you want to do is feed a cold.
A lot of advice.
Take Judy to call me in the morning.
But the best advice is what doctors have said millions of times. Take Dimetap. Dimetap in non-prescription formulas brings proven relief. So take the advice of doctors and pharmacists.
The tea works, huh?
And take Dimetap, the best advice you can take.
Today's my grape nuts day.
To get the vitamins in 1 bowl of Total takes 4 bowls of grape nuts.
My shredded wheat day.
12 bowls.
That's some day.
Total has 100% of 9 vitamins and iron, a stack of nutrition in just 1 bowl.
Mannington Never Wax floors are beautiful and designed to stay that way. And now until October 17th, you'll save 20% on nearly 100 Mannington Never Wax floors. The beautiful floors with the built-in shine.
Some of the wraps today came off of a recent secret test of Star Wars technology in space. CBS News Pentagon correspondent David Martin has the story and the pictures.
Zero. Fox Bravo.
These extraordinary pictures released today give a satellite's eye view of what a Star Wars battle of the future might look like 120 miles up in space. That white dot is a missile blasting off from White Sands, New Mexico. If this were the real thing, it would be a Soviet missile, and the Star Wars defense would have to destroy it before it could release its nuclear warheads. In this experiment, the Pentagon did not try to destroy the missile. Instead, the tracking camera slews around to find a second target, another satellite 120 miles away. Again, if this were the real thing, that satellite would be a Soviet missile about to release its warheads. These pictures show the tracking satellite closing in on the target and finally smashing into it at 6,500 miles per hour.
I, at least personally, believe from the data I've seen that our job's going to be a lot easier than we thought.
The job of Star Wars is to destroy not just one satellite, but hundreds of Soviet missiles. This one experiment cost $150 million.
One of the great areas of emphasis in the research program is how do you make them small and inexpensive.
Right now, both the U.S. and Soviet Union are prohibited by treaty from testing a system to shoot down ballistic missiles. And a former government official who studied this particular test says it came very close to violating that treaty.
If the Soviet Union did exactly the same experiment, we would be understandably upset.
The Pentagon says this experiment was a major milestone in the search for a Star Wars defense. It could also prove to be a major irritant in the search for an arms control agreement. David Martin, CBS News, the Pentagon.
Another major sore point in U.S.-Soviet relations is the jailing of U.S. journalist Nick Daniloff in Moscow. CBS News White House correspondent Bill Plant has been told what the deal might be to get Daniloff out.
President Reagan, who last night said his administration was doing everything possible to free Nicholas Daniloff, waited today for a Soviet reply to the latest U.S. proposal for settling the impasse. Sources tell CBS News the deal would work this way. Daniloff and Gennady Zakharov, whom the U.S. has charged with spying, would both be released from jail into the custody of their respective ambassadors. The U.S. wants Danilov to be allowed to leave the Soviet Union shortly thereafter. Washington would still insist on a trial for Zakharov, but not on jail. Instead, Washington proposes to swap Zakharov after his trial, not for an American reporter, but for a Soviet dissident, such as physicist Yuri Orlov. Both sides were cautious in their public comments today, indicating the diplomatic minuet is still underway.
There are vigorous diplomatic efforts underway in connection with the Danilov case.
I don't want to rock the boat.
Danilov's editor was briefed late today at the State Department. He would not comment on any proposed deal, but continues to oppose a one-for-one trade.
Mr. Zakharov in New York is an accused spy. There is a basic difference between the two, and we think they ought to be treated differently.
The deal the administration has proposed would preserve the distinction between Danilov, the reporter, and Zakharov. For the moment, officials think things are moving in the right direction. If you see us taking sanctions against the Soviets, said one, then you'll know the process has failed. Bill Plant, CBS News, the White House.
A scientist today reported development of a new cancer treatment using so-called killer cells that is 50 to 100 times more effective than the treatment he announced last year. Dr. Stephen Rosenberg of the National Cancer Institute emphasized that this new therapy has only been used in mice. Rosenberg said that the new treatment mixes interferon 2, a natural immune system booster, with cells taken directly from the cancerous tumor. He said that's eliminated tumors in mice which did not respond to anything else. The study appears in tomorrow's edition of the journal called Science.
It seemed like I was born with a cold. Always sneezing. Always sniffling. Even congested. Dude, but those weren't just colds. They were allergy attacks. So I got chlortrimeton. Chlortrimeton's made just for allergies. So don't treat your allergy like it's just a common cold. Take chlortrimeton.
Dr. Scholl's double comfort air pillow insoles. A white layer cushions, a blue absorbs shock. In one thin insole that keeps feet cool and dry in double cushiony comfort.
Summer streets can't beat my feet. Ain't nothing gonna slow me down.
Dr. Scholl's double comfort air pillow insoles for a cool summer lift.
As sometimes happen, I misspoke myself. Dr. Rosenberg said the new treatment, the cancer treatment we were reporting on a moment ago, mixes interleukin-2, not interferon-2, interleukin-2, a natural immune system booster. The nation's largest turkey marketing firm today admitted to substituting water for meat in food destined for school lunch programs. Norbest Incorporated will pay $871,000 in fines and restitution. Company workers told federal investigators that they were ordered to add extra water to turkey products and to sweeten foul-smelling meat with chlorine. The sentiment sounds noble. We're one big family pulling together to survive this world. But the speaker is a member of a street gang that robs and commits assaults and other crimes. And she is a 20-year-old woman. Girl gangs, you see, are known chiefly to boyfriends, victims, and the police. Now CBS News correspondent Frank Courier looks at their stark and chilling world.
In Chicago, 2 boys are murdered in their own neighborhood. 3 others are wounded by street punks with sawed-off shotguns. 2 teenage girls are busted for dealing drugs.
They'll grab you or choke you or anything or put a gun up to your head.
It is big city street gang terror, and increasingly girls are involved. As members, as victims, like 14-year-old Alicia Quiroga, shot and killed on a Chicago street, and Christine Kreitz, a Minneapolis teenager executed by her own gang who thought she was a police informer. In many of the nation's toughest, poorest neighborhoods, like Chicago's Humboldt Park, experts say 50% of girls belong to gangs, gangs that conquer and divide territory into blocks of vice and violence.
You hang out with them, you get high with them, you go party with them. You hold their drugs. There's gangs everywhere. Everywhere you turn, there's gangs.
Wanda Rivera joined a gang 3 years ago when she was only 12. Soon after, she became pregnant with her daughter Shanti and dropped out of 7th grade.
Most of the girls are taking over because there's girls that are just as bad as the guys are.
In Chicago alone, police say, thousands of young girls belong to more than 100 gangs, recruited from schools and street corners into a shadowy subculture of drug dealing, purse snatching, shoplifting, and promiscuity.
They carry the guns sometimes, they carry the dope sometimes. It depends on what the male member wants.
The boys promise the girls that membership guarantees safety from invading rival gangs.
It's acceptance, and it's a thrill. It's protection. You get to hang with people. But the real purpose of those gangs are criminal activities.
In this neighborhood last May, 3 girls in a gang beat up Ana Perez, telling her it's a crime to wear yellow, the official color of an enemy gang.
They broke the blood vessels in my eyes. I mean, my chin was dislocated. My teeth were knocked out.
For the girls who are poorest and without jobs or any hope of finishing school, escape from gang life isn't easy. Too often they are prisoners in their own neighborhood, exploited by the male gang leaders.
Wanda Rivera.
It is girls like Wanda Rivera who are the exception, who found help through counseling, who escaped and went back to graduate from 8th grade, and who had planned to start high school this fall, though she is still not enrolled.
Sometimes I wish I would have slowed down a long time ago. You know, you think about how my kid's gonna grow up. I don't want my kids growing up in that atmosphere. But you can't hide from it. It's there.
It is there on thousands of street corners, a whole generation of children born to mothers and fathers, dealing drugs and killing people, waving gang colors in a city that will spend $5 million this year fighting gang crimes. Frank Courier, CBS News, Chicago.
It was more September in the rain for the Great Lakes region today. In central Michigan, nearly 8 inches of rain fell in the past 2 days. The storm downed power lines throughout the state, cutting off electricity to 27,000 homes. The downpour closed hundreds of miles of roads. It damaged or washed away several bridges. That forced a dozen schools to close. The president of Brazil told his Congress today that his country will import more from the United States in return for a break on repaying its huge foreign debt. President Jose Sarney spoke to a joint session of the Brazilian Congress after meeting with President Reagan yesterday. He said Brazil intends to cut down its $5 billion annual trade imbalance with the USA, but that means it will have less money to pay off its $100 billion debt. The government of Poland said today it will free all its political prisoners next week, including leaders of the outlawed Solidarity movement. It said security in Poland has stabilized. A government spokesman said the order applied to 225 people. Opposition sources have put the number of actual political prisoners at closer to 350.
If you can pinch an inch, the Kellogg's Special K breakfast may help you lose weight. It's under 200 calories, high in protein.
I can't think of a tastier or better way to start my day.
Thanks to the K, you can't pinch an inch on me. Peachy, 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 peachy reuniting. Peachy, 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 peachy reuniting.
From out of the peach comes Reuniti Natural Peach.
Peachy, peachy, peachy.
Bursting with a taste of fresh peaches. Not a watered-down cooler, just natural Reuniti.
Peachy, peachy, peachy.
Reuniti Natural Peach. You'll go peaches over it.
Peachy reuniti.
The President and Congress kept up the competition today to be seen in the front line of the war on drugs in this election year. The President and First Lady Nancy Reagan made separate appearances during the day. It was designed to drum up interest in the joint speech on drug abuse they will deliver to the nation next Sunday evening. Administration sources told CBS News correspondent Rita Braver today that the White House anti-drug action plan includes this: random drug tests for more than 1 million federal workers and tough enforcement of federal laws against selling drugs near schools. On Capitol Hill, the House added something new today to its $3 billion anti-drug bill, sending in the U.S. military to patrol the borders and police powers to arrest drug smugglers. All this concern and talk about a war on drugs, a military solution, a money solution. CBS News correspondent Bill Moyers tonight has the latest in a series of commentaries about all of this. Bill?
Dan, the three most important words in politics are, wait a minute. They're the deterrent against haste and waste and save us from the conceit that by doing anything, we're doing the right thing. They protect us, the public, against ourselves. What we want is not always what we need, but we get it anyway when our leaders fail to take a deep breath and count to 10. It takes time for a good impulse to become a good program to change human behavior to the good. Right now, our politicians are in a frenzy to throw money at the drug problem. They've read the polls, putting drugs at the top of public concern. They want to come to you in November and say, look, we voted $1 billion or $2 or $3 to the war on drugs. We've taken care of the problem. Now you vote for us. By the time it fails, no one will remember whom to hold accountable. Look at this headline. Congress declares war on drugs provided the coverage is good. This was 3 years ago. The publicity was inspired then as now by reports of drug abuse among famous athletes. Nothing really changed. There have been at least 13 separate congressional hearings on narcotics enforcement since 1971, and the government has yet to get its act together. Each spasm of publicity was followed by a season of neglect until the next time. Then some new revelation of drug abuse, this time it's crack, alarms the public and panics the politicians. So now Democrats and Republicans are competing with each other to raise the ante of big spending. Even conservative champions of fiscal prudence have joined the clamor, people who usually excoriate liberals for throwing money at social problems. On television yesterday, one brave doubting Thomas badgered his congressional colleagues to say where they intend to get the $1 billion or $2 or $3 billion. They didn't answer. It will take money when we know how to spend it, and that takes thought. But in a hurry to solve politically what is deeply embedded in the moral condition of our society, we risk a different addiction to the drug of illusion.
Thank you, Bill. Leaders of the House of Representatives have decided to drop their bid for sweeping sanctions against South Africa. CBS News Washington reports the House may vote tomorrow on a sanctions bill, but it will be the Senate's much more moderate version. The original House bill had called for a full-scale trade embargo. Coretta Scott King ended her visit to South Africa today with an emotional meeting with Winnie Mandela. The widow of Dr. Martin Luther King talked for more than an hour with the wife of jailed anti-apartheid leader Nelson Mandela at her home in Soweto. Mrs. King called it one of the greatest moments of her life. Mrs. Mandela agreed to the meeting only after Mrs. King called off a meeting with President P.W. Botha. In a moment, against desperate odds, people in a controversial battle to free animals trapped by a glacier.
That'll do it. Who wants grapefruit juice?
I'll pass.
It's good for you. It's great for dieting.
I know, but...
Lots of vitamin C.
Yeah, but...
But the taste? Yeah, try this. Ocean Spray Pink Grapefruit Juice Cocktail. It's tangy, smoother, sweeter.
This is grapefruit juice?
Uh-huh.
It's not bitter.
It's Ocean Spray Pink Grapefruit Juice Cocktail. And it's not just good for you, it's good. Ocean Spray good.
Made in the USA.
Ask for the Made in the USA label, because it does matter.
To all of us. It matters to me.
And me too.
You better believe it matters to me.
Ask for and buy Made in the USA.
In North Carolina, Honda lawnmowers are assembled from the wheels up. Then the final critical step, the Clara Johnson test. If Clara pulls and it starts, it's a Honda.
Ship it. There are precision jobs in there that can cause tension. That can lead to aches and pains. Ask Charles Lubers.
It's sore right in through these areas here. If I don't get a strong medication, it will not take this ache away in my neck.
What he took was extra-strength Tylenol caplets. Last year, hospitals dispensed Tylenol 10 times more than the next 4 brands combined.
The aches are gone, and it just makes me feel great. No tension at all. It's gone.
If Tylenol worked for Charles Lubers, and it's the pain reliever hospitals use most, shouldn't you use Tylenol, too?
You may remember our report earlier this summer about Alaska's huge Hubbard Glacier. It suddenly came to life 12,000 years after the last ice age. The glacier's awesome march is now sparking a vast rescue effort, and CBS News correspondent Terry Drinkwater reports there are those who believe the rescue is a bad idea.
The mammoth Hubbard Glacier. It moved with such force that early this summer, it built a dam across this fjord. Hundreds of marine mammals, seals, and porpoises were trapped. The saltwater fjord is now fast becoming a giant freshwater lake. And seals are now trying to escape from the freshwater by pulling their way through the crevasses up the dam towards survival in the saltwater in the bay beyond. Biologists believe few will make it. So, animal lovers in the lower 48 have launched a rescue attempt. The Coast Guard is flying nets, boats, traps, and experts and volunteers to the remote village of Yakutat, where the effort is being staged.
Holding pen for these animals.
It is an immense project.
We know their fate should we not intervene. We know that they will die if we don't try to help them.
Marine biologist Jeff Foster is most worried about the porpoises.
By the looks of that animal, it looks like they're moving fairly sluggish.
The most critical of the animals will be airlifted from the lake. For relatively healthy seals, one plan is to use boats to drive them up the backside of the glacier. Then the seals could be herded over the glacier, or at least over these rocks and down into the saltwater where they'd be safe. Meanwhile, some ecologists question the whole project.
One of the purposes of the Wilderness Act is to preserve natural conditions. And like it or not, this is a natural event, and the rescue would directly intervene into that event. We're afraid that this whole rescue attempt could turn into a real circus.
I hope to prove to the skeptics that this attempt was necessary.
But, he cautions, the prospect for survival of the seals and porpoises is bleak. Terry Drinkwater, CBS News, on the Hubbard Glacier.
And that's the CBS Evening News. Dan Rather, good night.
You build a house with wood and nails, but a home you build with love. Soon the Hansons will raise their children here. Put pictures of them up on these walls and see their oldest coming down these stairs, going on her first stage. That's why only one paint will ever be good enough for this home. Benjamin Moore. They wouldn't use anything less, not on something that means this much. Would you?
When something means so much, see your Benjamin Moore dealer.
It's not how many homes we sell, it's how we sell each one. That's why Coldwell Banker is America's largest full-service real estate company. And these days, you don't get bigger unless you do it better. Coldwell Banker, the home sellers, a member of the Sears Financial Network.
The doctor said I have hemorrhoids.
Then get Preparation H.
Preparation H relieves pain and itch for hours, and it helps shrink swelling of inflamed hemorrhoidal tissue.
Preparation H works great.
Doctor recommended, hospital tested Preparation H.
The #1 hit.
How fast can Ambisol relieve toothache pain? Before you can say
Ambisol.
Canker sore pain? Before you can say
Ambisol.
Ambisol relieves minor mouth pain on contact. Ambisol, liquid or gel.
I'm Faith Daniels. Henry Kissinger on the tension in U.S.-Soviet relations, and a look at Sissy Spacek's new movie, tomorrow on the CBS Morning News.
This is CBS.